Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Political Fixer Live. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, the Political Fixer, and we have an action-packed show this evening. Lots of things happening. Believe it or not, it's going to be a positive show this evening. There's a lot happening that's extremely negative in the news, but we found a way, believe it or not, to make things a little bit more positive tonight. We're going to be taking a positive spin on action that you're doing that's already working and more positive actions you can take. That's our theme for tonight. We're going to cover the headlines with a little bit of a de-stress motif, if you will. So here we go. Let me take a rundown of what you can expect in tonight's show. We have 3 different areas that we're going to focus on. First of all, we're going to talk about messaging that you all are creating that is working. How do we know what's working? What specifically is that messaging, and how can we build on that framework? So that's one of the things that we're going to start doing, is talking about the positive accomplishments that you've made. Congratulations, you have penetrated this awful news cycle and you've done something that is actually working. We're going to discuss that and go into more detail. And again, arm you with data. How do you know it's working? And also training. What can you do to keep up the good work? All right. The other thing is, while the public is starting to get organized with this chaos tornado that is this administration, our senators are still struggling. They don't exactly know what to do. We're going to talk about why that is, but actually we can help lead them. We can give them a way to move forward. So we're going to talk about specifically what's one thing you can ask your senator to do. And it's something that, yes, even in the minority, Democratic senators could do that could make a huge impact. So we're going to talk about that. That's our second item for tonight. And finally, there's a ton of amazing work that's being done in our communities, including by many of you. In this particular episode of Political Fixer Live, I'm going to focus on one particular nonprofit organization that some of you may have heard of, but maybe you didn't realize their impact and what's happening in the headlines right now. I'm going to tell you the latest drama of what just happened, what this nonprofit is doing to fight back on behalf of all of us, and I'm going to give you some easy ways that in less than 10 minutes, totally free from your keyboard or your phone or your iPad, you can actually do something to help them and thank them for the work that they're doing. All of that, plus we're going to take our user and audience questions and comments. If you are new to Political Fixer Live, we are being simulcast across the world on a number of different platforms. There's, of course, our TikTok family, which kicked off Political Fixer Live back in the day, going all the way back to July, and they have been with us nonstop ever since. Since then, we've expanded. We now simulcast to YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and yes, we go deep into the heart of the beast, and we still broadcast on X. Why? Because I want to show that guy that we're not scared. So I don't go on there often, but when I do, I make sure to insult him a few times before I leave. Okay, so if you would like to participate in tonight's show, the easiest way to do that is to leave your comments in the chat. And tonight, our amazing Political Fixer team is Sarah and Eddie and Jason, J Robot, and they'll be helping us this evening, making sure that we get to as much of your questions as possible. Definitely love all the likes and all of the great positive energy you all provide us. So we'll be doing some shout outs of that as well. And I also want to let you know that if you miss any of this, or if there's something you want to go back to, or you need to leave early, or you just want to share it with some friends, we love that. Then what you can do is you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Political Fixer, and within hours, this is going to be ready. Sometimes takes a few hours for them to do all of their technical magic over there at YouTube, but the entire episode will be available there for free, and you can watch it, you can take clips out of it, you can run it at double speed while you're working out, whatever makes you happy, but you can catch the entire episode of Political Fixer Live on YouTube within a few hours after the show. Okay, really excited. I see so many friends already joining us. Hey, Rachel is among all of our friends. We've got so many people that are joining us right now, and we're already at over 1,000 likes, and we're just getting started. Why don't we dive into what I think is actually going to be a show that lowers the blood pressure? That's the goal. Empowerment, having a little bit of fun. It can be fun to fight back against evil, right? There's no blueprint right now. We're doing the best that we can. There's nothing that says that we can't do it and not lose ourselves in the process. I want to say hey to Maria277 and Koa and Molly Steves. There's so many people that are joining us. Thank you so much. All right, let's take a look here. Trying to make sure we get your comments ready. And I see Sherry. Hey, Sherry, nice to see you as well. All right, what's our first topic tonight? We're going to talk about what we're doing right. All right, there's a lot happening in the news that can be overwhelming. I myself was getting overwhelmed looking at the headlines and trying to prepare for this show and other content we're creating. And so as a form of kind of rebellion, I guess, I decided not to let it get to me and to take out of the headlines glimmers of hope and positivity that I was seeing. Now, that's not to say that things are great right now. They're really, really not. But it does mean that we haven't lost our power. And we're seeing that in so many beautiful ways. So I want to highlight some of what's working. And I hope that you feel a little bit more empowered by the end of this Political Fixer Live. All right. I want to start out by saying that in most situations, 99% of the time, I'm going to go out and publicly say that bullying is wrong. Bullying is wrong. I am against bullying. Except if we're having a family conversation, I believe it is totally okay to bully the maniacal evil billionaire who's trying to take over our entire democracy. I'm going to go ahead and write that new rule in. If he can be king, I can be queen of our universe here. I'm writing it in. In this situation, I'm going to make an exception. Now, why am I saying this? Because it turns out that making fun of, being anti, just showing the hypocrisy and the evil deeds of Elon Musk is highly effective messaging. That's right. It turns out that being against Elon Musk is working. Let me tell you a little bit about what I mean and what you can do about it. Okay. When I look at political messaging in a campaign or legislation, as someone who works on legislation all the time or in crisis management sometimes with that messaging or on campaigns, there's a few things I'm looking at to see, is it effective? So let me walk you through a couple of those so that you can be empowered with that knowledge as well. The first thing that I look at as a message is how deeply has it penetrated? How far is it reaching? So usually when you have something that is important messaging, then you see that it will start to take hold on social media. That's kind of a level one. Social media tends to break news more than we tend to follow it, especially right now. We tend to have a lot of different perspectives, and when we coalesce around a set of messaging, that is a good sign. That means it's a really good, solid message. The second level I'm looking for is, has it reached legacy media? And in this case, legacy media reporting on Elon Musk and what's happening has started to take hold. It took a little while, but we're seeing more and more reports on mainstream media talking about Elon Musk and what's happening. So that's your kind of second level that you reach. And then the third level of message penetration that I look for is, has it penetrated pop culture? And we're seeing that it has. We're seeing that late night hosts are making fun of Elon Musk and what's happening with all of his, programmers and hackers. And we saw a Time magazine cover where Elon Musk was pictured sitting behind the desk at the Oval Office. And let me tell you, that was so spot on. I had to Google it and make sure it was real. I thought that Time magazine cover was fake and somebody was being funny. No, that's how deeply this message has penetrated. So when you're looking to advance a message, that's all really good signs. All right, let's keep going. The next thing that we want to make sure of with our message is that it's unifying, right? So we want to make sure that when we're putting a message out there, it's bringing more people towards us instead of causing them to be more upset with us. We want them to agree with us. That's the point of building that coalition in politics. And we're seeing that when people hear more about what's going on, for example, I don't believe that Elon Musk should have so much power when he wasn't ever elected. There's no oversight, and he was never even confirmed through our Senate confirmation process. I think that's not good for democracy. If you say a sentence like that, and most people, when they hear it, say, oh, that makes sense to me, it's a unifying point. Right? You can insult him about a lot of different things, and maybe that's not so unifying, but if you get down to the brass tacks of what's happening, that is a unifying message, right? Okay, so then the third thing we look at, so message penetration, is it a unifying message, meaning is it doing its job and bringing more people towards us? The third thing I look at is Q score. If I'm trying to get someone elected, I want their Q score to go up. If I'm trying to defeat someone or their legislation, I want their Q score to go down. What does that mean? Q score is just a fancy marketing term. That means the more you hear about someone, do you like them more when you hear more about them, or do you like them less when you hear more about them? People are busy. We always assume that they know everything about what's happening in the news because we're very online. But the truth is, most people don't pay attention to a lot of things when they're busy living their lives. So if they are hearing more about someone, does that improve how they think of that person or not? So an example of this is movie star and former wrestler John Cena. He has an insanely high Q score. The more you see John Cena in things, the more you want to see John Cena in things. And then you find out, oh, he helps Make-A-Wish kids. And then you find out he's actually a really nice guy. The more you hear about John Cena, the more you like him. So that means his Q score is positive. It's super high, right? Well, it turns out that Elon Musk has a really negative Q score. The more people find out about who he is, how he made his money, where he came from, his background, how he treated his employees, how he's treated the mothers of his children, how he's treated his children themselves. The more they hear about him, the less they like him. So shining a spotlight on him is great news for our cause. All right? Now, I see Alexander saying Elon is a distraction and a scapegoat. I understand what you're saying. And I'm going to prove my case and see if I can convince you differently, Alexander. All right. Okay. Let's look at the data. So I'm saying that Elon Musk is a winning point here. Let me show you the data that supports my cause here. The Economist did a series of polls. The most recent ones were a couple of weeks ago. Now, The Economist is a reliable polling company, and they work with YouGov, and they also are not liberal. So when they say things, we know they're not just trying to make things to where we want to see them favorably, right? They are known for being a little bit more on the conservative side. So The Economist did a poll. Now, Democrats have stayed largely flat with Musk. We already had over 82% of Democrats who did not like Musk, did not look at him favorably. That number is the same. It's bumped up to like 83%. So over 4 out of 5 Democrats already don't like him. Why does that matter? Because it means if you attack him, you're not giving up anything. You're not going to risk alienating your own base. If anything, it's kind of a unifier. People have different opinions on different people and different policies. There are issues that can rip our party apart. We've definitely seen that. However, with Democrats and independents, a majority of them already find Elon Musk unfavorable, and that's before they find out what he's doing in the government, right? So it's kind of a safe thing, so to speak, to attack. The second thing is that his favorability among MAGA is starting to slip. It's already dropped about 10 points in the last 3 months, and he's behind in favorability. Basically how much people like him that are MAGA is lower than how much people like the guy in the Oval Office, the guy they just voted for. So right now we've got to pick battles we can win. There will be a time to go after the administration at large and bigger concepts and the guy in the Oval. But right now, the thing we can win is that more and more of them are finding Musk to be unfavorable. And they definitely are willing, to Alexander's point, they're willing to throw him out long before the guy they just voted in. So we take our battles one at a time and the victories as we can get them. But there's something else that's really interesting in this data. In the last 3 months, right after the election, then MAGA said they wanted, just under half of them said they wanted Musk to be involved in the government. A lot of them said they think he's a smart guy, he's a good businessman. They wanted him to be really involved in the government. Well, guess what? The most recent poll has that number changing by a lot. Now, only 26% of them think he needs to be near the government and controlling things. And that's before they learn about what's being done with our treasury data, what's happening with the layoffs, the potential shutting down of key government services. This is a winnable point. So what do we do with all of that information? So I'm saying, okay, this works. What do you do with it? We have to start emphasizing Musk as being the guy behind this stuff. I know that sounds counterintuitive because we're like, okay, but Congress is letting him and Department of Justice isn't doing anything to stop him. And the guy in the Oval Office gave him the keys to the House. All of that is true, but pick the message that can win. So with Musk, point everything on him because it makes sense. It's easy to understand and it's a unifying point that people hear and they respond well to. All right. So how do you actually do this? Well, I want to give you one more data point to kind of make my case here. Not only am I going to show you how you can shift your messaging to be this winning messaging that's working, I want to give you an added cookie at the end of this to kind of hear me out. Not only is it working with a data perspective, it's actually working with really upsetting him. Let me give you an example. There's a guy named Mike Lukovich. He is a political cartoonist from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And I'm going to show you guys a visual aid if I can, which is this cartoon here. And it has Musk standing in front of a pile of money bags. And it says, federal funds Musk gets. And then it has children that are the world's poorest children and him saying, no more free lunch for you. Okay? Political cartoon by Mike Lukovich. This cartoon, that cartoon that I just showed you, made him so angry that Twitter threatened to suspend Mr. Lukovich for posting it. They sent him a notice that said that his cartoon did not comply with community standards. Now, I want you to imagine that you're a billionaire. You can travel anywhere. You can have just about any experience you want. You can buy your own island. You can wear the nicest clothes. You can have people that craft jewelry in front of you just for you. Anything you can think of. And yet, you're bickering when someone makes a drawing about you. Okay, so not only do we know that this message is unifying, it really makes him upset. So that means it's going to be super fun if we do it well. All right, so how do we do it? Every message needs to tie to him over and over and over. A lot of people have no idea what's happening in the government right now. And the fact that he is taking over, having access to sensitive data, doing layoffs without congressional oversight, shutting things down, firing a bunch of nuclear scientists and then scrambling to try to hire them back, laying off air traffic controllers. So instead of being passive and saying the government is laying a lot of people off, no, be active and blame. An unelected billionaire is firing working class Americans from positions we need to run our government. You see the difference? All right, let me give you another example. People are like, yeah, but we need to control government spending. Okay, yes, we're struggling to meet all of our expenses. And meanwhile, Musk's companies are getting over $20 billion in taxpayer money. So maybe we shouldn't be using our tax dollars to fund a billionaire's companies, right? So everything needs to go back to him, even if they're worried about spending. If a plane crashes, it's not just one of those things that happens. I want to remind everyone that prior to this plane crash, it had been almost 25 years since there had been a significant plane crash. And now we've had 11 of them and counting. All right, so no, the planes didn't just fall out of the sky. Elon Musk went in there with no oversight, no training, and no experience, and gutted our aviation authority and fired air traffic controllers. Musk is the reason the planes are falling. Say it defiantly. Punch him right in the face, figuratively speaking, because it gives people a place to put that energy. Now you might be thinking, okay, yes, but then they'll just get rid of him. Yes. And then that will cause friction, and that will slow down the technology arm of the guy who understands systems well enough to get in there and cause significant damage. All right, the guy sitting behind the Oval Office desk right now, the one that was actually elected with an asterisk, another story for another time, that guy doesn't know how to operate a computer or get into a database. Right? Neither do many of these members of cabinet or the Congress. Have you heard these cabinet members speaking? Most of them are not geniuses. They're literally reality stars and Fox News hosts. Get rid of the guy who holds the key to our data, and we'll slow all of them down. So your homework is simple. I want you to start creating content. When you talk about what's happening in the news, whether it's on a comment or a letter to the editor or a post that you're doing on any of your social platforms, put it in the framework of, this is not right, he needs to go. All right? This is really important. No matter what your political background is, if you say Republicans need to go, you're already going to get fight from at least a third of the country. Right? If you say, well, the guy in the Oval, he needs to go, right now he just got elected. You're not going to win that discussion, and it's going to seem like sour grapes. But if you say that this guy who wasn't elected, who has zero oversight, who has not been confirmed, who should not have the highest level of access to our classified documents based on his interests in other places of the world, who has a conflict of interest because he's profiting off of the decisions he makes with our tax dollars. You could go on and on and on about how wrong this is. You can use the hashtag no king. I didn't come up with that. No king. He wasn't elected. We in America, we don't have kings around here. Right? So that's the kind of thing that messaging is working. It is penetrating to people who do not follow politics, and it is giving our Congress people something to talk about, except for those gosh darn eggs, right? If I see another Schumer thing about the price of pizza or the price of eggs, I'm going to scream. That ship has sailed. They need to talk about what's happening now and what they're doing about it. So getting rid of Musk gives them an action plan that they can follow right now. All right? Okay, let's keep going. Let's take some of your comments. I see that CJ Murphy is joining us tonight. Hey, CJ, it's good to see you. And CJ says, I've been burning up my representatives' phone lines in DC and West Virginia every day over Musk. Keep it up. It's working. It is working. They are getting the calls. They are responding. And I understand, even if you live in a red area, it might feel like they don't care. I'm telling you, they are already getting grumpy behind the scenes on the Republican side, and on the Democratic side, they're feeling like they need to do something besides just press releases and speeches. So Congress is not going to change overnight, but the pressure is working. And we're going to talk specifically about what we can do on the Senate side. We're going to talk about a call to action that's very specific for our senators in just a second. All right, let's keep going with some, I want to say hi to Dawn and to Energy Medicine Healer. I want to thank, it seems like Sun Moon Tea and Monica Bryant, that they are sharing this live. Thank you so much. Tilda and Maggie, so many people. Rose, DRDSW, you guys are sending beautiful gifts. I really appreciate it. And it seems like Mama Peg sent some nice gifts. And hey, Rachel is always just rallying the troops and making sure that everyone stays positive and engaged. We have already just covered only one of our topics on Political Fixer Live tonight. If you're just joining us, our theme for tonight, hey Energy, our theme for tonight is looking in the headlines and finding glimmers of hope. What is working and how can we empower each other to keep it going? I just made the case for how there's messaging that is working, that is unifying people. It's piercing through. People are understanding what's happening and they're starting to wake up, and it's actually causing them to get more politically engaged, which is what we need. We're at already over 30,000 likes and over 31,000 likes. I want to say hi to Divine AF Girl, one of our Political Fixer family members. Thank you so much. All right, so someone saying the government also gives money to people like Bill Gates. Yes, this is true. The government has big contracts with a lot of big companies, some of which we agree with and some of which we don't. That's not the point. The point is only one of them is actively hacking into our systems and eradicating data, making them subject to hacking and getting rid of positions based on, private grudges and whims. That's the point. It's not about the fact that he has the contracts. The point is that this guy has conflicts of interest, including in foreign governments, which he still regularly communicates with, including Russia, and that is what needs to be stopped. That is why we're targeting Musk. It's not just because of his government contracts. It's what he's doing now with the government data unauthorized, completely unauthorized. Okay, I want to say hi to Carmen Murphy. I also want to say hi to a lot of our trolls, apparently. So we started creating more content as we started getting restructured for the new year. We've added some tools. We're going to talk about more of that later. And you guys have just really stepped up. You've been sharing content. You've been giving us so much encouragement and information on your messages. How do we know it's working? Because the haters are back. Hey, haters. So we're getting a lot of trolls tonight. And that's how I know that we as a Political Fixer family are doing a good job. Again, evidence that it's working. All right, let's keep going. Let's talk about, now Sherry has a question. Why do you think the FBI or Department of Justice has not acted with what's happening with Elon and what's happening in the Oval Office? I think right now, this is the game of paralysis where everyone's kind of waiting to see what the other person does. All right, and earlier this week, I posted a TikTok talking about how I received a phone call from my congresswoman. And yes, I've been calling just like so many of you have, and we're going to talk more about that. And I understand what's happening better after having that conversation. We are always saying, do something, do something, do something. Let me express to you, many of them don't know what to do. There's some exceptions. Elizabeth Warren has been doing a really good job of explaining things and staying in the fight and like really bringing things to the media and to the people. AOC has been doing, in my opinion, a beautiful job of speaking truth to power and standing up to these people and really explaining what's going on to her audience. There are exceptions, but a lot of them, we have to remember, are very polished, very cushy, well-protected, and well-insulated politicians. They are not advocates. I don't find it to be accidental that the person that's really good at explaining things, Elizabeth Warren, was a professor for much longer than she was a politician, right? That the woman who's getting really scrappy right now and not going to take your crap was a bartender with AOC, right? These are real people that have had to deal with real humans for quite some time. Whereas a lot of our congressional leaders, they get elected and they stay there. So they're a little out of touch, they're a little out of step, and they're a little slow to respond. We need to guide them on what to do. That, if you watched my TikTok about my congresswoman, yes, I was very upset and a little bit flabbergasted by some of the things I heard on that call. But my takeaway after sitting with it is that we're going to have to lead them. So there's what we call around here a crisis-opportunity, right? We are in crisis, but it's an opportunity. And our crisis-opportunity is that we have an opportunity to take people who desperately need to be liked. It's in their DNA. I've worked with a lot of them. They desperately need to be liked, and we can show them a way to do that. So how do we do that? We need to tell them exactly what we want done, right? So to answer your question, Sherry, I think the judicial system is waiting to see what law enforcement's going to do. It's waiting to see what Congress is going to do, and so on. I love these gifts, by the way, on TikTok, guys. These are so cute. I love the dog. It's so cute. And the hearts. Punta Cans also said Jasmine Crockett is going toe-to-toe. Great point. Jasmine Crockett is doing an amazing job. Shout out to my fellow Texan, Jasmine Crockett. Some of you are saying it's not about being liked as much as about it's being in power. That is true for some of them that have a thicker skin, but I'm telling you that a lot of them do not have as thick a skin as you think. And when you sit there, if I'm in a room with some of them privately, they're like, how did that go? Did I do okay? How did I do? They need that approval. They clamor for it. It's part of what makes them wired to do that job, which honestly I couldn't do. So let's use that to our advantage. I'm going to give you something very specific that we can ask our senators, our US senators, to do. Now, this works in red states and blue states. If you're in a red state, you can still call. Yes, our Democratic senators can do something very meaningfully to slow down this train of destruction, even being in the minority. Let me explain what I mean. Okay. What we can ask them to do is something very specific. So instead of calling our senator's office and saying, do something, stop him, which I have done, which I encourage, which is good work, please continue doing it. However, if you want to level up on that just a little bit, what you could do is ask them specifically to call and filibuster Musk's government contracts. Filibuster any spending bill that approves his contracts. Let me tell you a little bit about what that means. So for those of you that aren't into politics as nerdy as I am, totally fair. I want to say hi to AP History and Divine AF Girl, who I know are political fixer and politics junkies like myself. So thank you all for the lovely gifts. All right, so a filibuster in government is when someone either speaks up or uses a procedure to delay a vote. So it can be something like giving a quick speech. We've seen people read Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham on the floor. It only takes one person in the US Senate to slow down the vote at all. And so if there is a spending bill, only one senator can slow it down significantly. I'm looking at you, Rand Paul, because he's almost always the one. But in this case, we want it slowed down. Okay. However, if 41 of them, that's our magic number, if they filibuster, then it is enough in some cases to delay a vote indefinitely, meaning you've essentially killed the bill. There's exceptions to this. There are so many ridiculous rules of the Senate and the House, but just go with me here. We have 43 Democratic senators. They could hold up and even kill legislation that would fund Musk's companies. Now, why would we do this? The first answer, if we're being really honest, is they don't have a lot of tools at their disposal that they can use. So we need to remind them of the tools still in their toolbox that give them any kind of power, and the filibuster is one of them. So again, you want them to filibuster spending that involves Musk's contracts. The other reason to do this is we need to start giving Musk some of his own fires to put out. If he's dealing with his shareholders or his clients or his stock prices or his board members upset with him about losing these contracts, that's less time that he can be going into our data with a sledgehammer and wrecking our democracy. So distraction is part of this. But the other thing is it could really hurt him. We're talking about over $20 billion worth of contracts growing all the time. He's constantly trying to sneak more contracts in there even now. But also, as that kind of stuff hits the news, if this gets coverage and people start talking about this filibuster, then it will also start to tank his stock prices of both SpaceX and Tesla. And that will reduce his power and his wealth. Do I think we're going to take him out in one blow? No, that's not what I'm saying. And to some of your points, do I think that him having government contracts in and of itself is enough to warrant this? No, it's a point of vulnerability. I don't know how many of you are from the stand up at a video console age, like when you would go into an arcade and like stand at the arcade and play the game, but like Mortal Kombat, if you ever played that game, you're just looking for anything that will work to beat the other person. You're just frantically hitting buttons, and when you realize that AB left works, then you just keep hitting that over and over again because it's working, right? And so we know that this is working. We know he cares about ego, he cares about his money, he cares about being on top, right? So let's hit him where it hurts, in his pocketbook. And also show him that he's accountable to someone. If he knows that he can't do something until Democratic senators let him do it, trust me, that will enrage him. And again, it will cause a lot of distraction. Hopefully, it will start to divide up this chaos tornado that is the current administration, and we can start to make some other progress from there. Okay. Hey to Carmen Murphy. Good to see you. All right. So if these are all great ideas, then why isn't the Senate just doing that? Why aren't they going ahead and filibustering this on their own? Well, there's a reason. First of all, his spending is not going to be nice and neat on one bill that is just about Elon Musk. Even now, it'll be in a bill that has other spending. And we know that the Democratic senators try to be the adults in the room. And most of the time, we appreciate that. They're the ones that want to keep the government open. They want to make sure people aren't hurt by what's happening on the Senate floor. They don't want to hold the government hostage. But in this case, the government being delayed in our spending, we have to consider that compared to what is happening with wrecking entire departments, including our air traffic controllers and the people that oversee watching national disasters, keeping an eye on diseases, making sure that our forests aren't on fire and that people get rescued if they fall down in a national park, making sure that our nuclear arms are well maintained. I mean, these are serious issues. So delaying a spending bill compared to all of that seems like an easy call. But they need to hear from you. They need to hear that you as their constituent or you as their supporter, if you've ever given or donated or volunteered or helped them in any way, even if they're not your senator, call them and let them know that. And then tell them that this is something you believe in and you have their back. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it causes a little bit of friction and they have to get scrappy and fight for it on the Senate floor, tell them you have their back. And this is really important because some of you said, well, they care about power. You're right. And Musk is a billionaire who will spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on a campaign. So going toe to toe with him takes courage. And sometimes your phone calls can be a reminder of the courage that they need to find. So I'm going to ask you to call them. I want you to tell them to support filibustering a bill with his spending, even if it delays an overall budget. And then I want you to also, if you can, tell them a personal reason why this matters to you. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing. What is bothering you right now? Pick one thing and give them a heartfelt, quick statement on that voicemail, in that email, in the letter you're mailing, because that does matter. The congressional and legislative aides do forward a lot of that stuff to them. Okay, so that is a big, long-winded way of saying that, does our Senate exactly know how to handle this? If I'm looking at Chuck Schumer's social media posts, good Lord, no, they do not. But do they want to have the answers? Yeah. And if you're wondering why one side is different than another, it's not that one side always gets it right and the other side always gets it wrong. It's not that one side always wins and the other side loses. So sometimes it can feel that way. The real thing right now that separates the MAGA administration versus independents, moderate conservatives, and Democrats is that even when they don't have the answers, at least they're trying to do what's right. That is the difference. And so sometimes we just have to be the ones to show them what that is, why it matters, and sometimes remind them why they are in this job to begin with. Pressuring them with the negative messaging, I'm telling you, it's working. But here's another alternative, which is in addition to saying do something, and here's something specifically I'd like you to do, that could also be effective. So let's go ahead, and Carol C says they don't say anything right. Carol, this is literally why I drink whiskey. Are you kidding me? Yes, I go nuts. I just want to lock them all in a room and do messaging training for like a week. That's all I want. Like, I feel like everything could be solved election-wise, legislatively. It's extremely frustrating. But you know what? I don't have ready access to them except on a limited basis. The good news is that you and I all have access to each other. So we can lead by example. And again, going back to them liking to be liked, when they see something go viral, when they see it trending, when they see messaging working, when they do something and they get pats on the head instead of screaming in their face, it does work. It is effective. Okay. CJ Murphy is asking, what about the special elections in Florida? Is the DCCC, the Congressional Committee for Democrats, focusing on this at all? That's a great question. And actually, I've called a few of their campaigns on all of you guys' behalf, trying to say, hey, listen, we're a political fixer family here. We want to help you. What can we do? So far, I have only gotten through to one campaign, which is Gay's campaign, the woman running to overthrow Matt Gaetz. I'm going to try to get you all new information as soon as I have it on ways that we can volunteer in some of these special elections. Special elections are a great opportunity to overthrow a really red seat because it's all about turnout. And usually there's a base of Republican voters that are reliable. They are going to show up no matter what. They're going to have that day marked on their calendar. You're not going to stop them from hitting that voting booth. But if we can remind Democrats that that seat is even happening, that it's up for election, and show them how it can make a huge difference in Congress, it does matter. So great point, CJ, when you're creating content, if you want to adopt a race and tell people about it and say, hey, do you want to call and reach out to voters? Or if you can't hear back from the campaign, share stuff on social. That's definitely something you can do, and it doesn't cost anything. We're constantly trying to see what is happening that we can do that's not just donating, because that's not always practical and it's not always the go-to answer for everything. Platinum Lady asks, do they get reports on emails and voicemails? Yes. And the magic number of what they're looking at on any given topic is usually around 36. If 36 people call or email about the same thing, that is usually a tick to say, hey, people are paying attention to this. That's a doable number for almost any issue we're talking about. The other thing to keep in mind is, according to one of the senators, I want to say the one in Alaska, she was saying that they usually get 90 calls in each every minute, and they've been getting over 1,400 calls every minute. So that volume is also making a huge difference. People are asking, can we just essentially use Mayor Pete Buttigieg as our kind of ambassador to give out messaging for the Democratic Party? Listen, they just lost a big election. They also just had national elections. They're having state and local elections. They're going to be a little slow to kind of recoup and respond. We've got to expect that. And normally that's totally normal. That's how parties function on both sides. It takes a few months to recover, get the new people in, build a plan. But guess what? This is a unique time. And a few days feels like a few months right now. So we're going to have to go out in front and lead. But I love Mayor Pete's messaging as well. Koa asked, are there call scripts available for our reps? And the answer to that is not that I'm aware of as of yet, but we have some work that we're doing on a project to get those call scripts. I'm going to tell you, I am very behind in my homework on things I want to be working on. So I'm locking myself away, with the exception of a couple of to-do list items. Then we are just going to be creating as much content as possible. I'm not going to promise something and then under-deliver to you tonight. But what I will say is next Tuesday, when we do our live, which is at 9 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. West Coast time. When we do our Political Fixer Live next week, we are going to be doing an update on everything that we've already produced, free tools. All of it is 100% free, having to do with any of these issues and what you can take and what you can use. And if you miss next week's live, that's okay, because it'll be on the YouTube channel at Political Fixer, and you can use that information however you would like. This is a great situation because I'm asking you to steal from us. I am asking you to take any materials that we have, social graphics, scripts, links, information, even these stories that I'm sharing with you. Take them, make them your own, and use it to reach your community, whether it's your local community or your online community. That is what it's there for. That is the work that we do. If you want to give us credit for it, great. We always love it when we get a shout out. But you know what? The whole point is to do the work right now, and you guys are so supportive. We don't need more kudos than that. All right, before we dive into the next topic, then I'm seeing a lot of people that you need tools. All right, let me see how much we can do with our team. Sarah and Eddie and I are going to be hot on the case. And by next Tuesday, you'll have our status report on the next Political Fixer Live on where we are, what tools are available, how you can use them, where to go to download them. And again, all of it's going to be 100% free. So how far we'll get? Just send us whatever positive energy you can. We'll do the best that we can. And if you have something in particular that's a high priority, I'm seeing scripts. I'm seeing lots of love from Willow as well. So hello, Willow. But anything that you need that's a high priority to you, please send it. We are going to do the best that we can. We have a running list. And then once we do that, we'll be recruiting volunteers to take that and help us run with it even further. We are already at over 56,000 likes, and we've got one more really big topic for you all to cover in our coverage tonight. We're trying really hard to stay positive, but I'm seeing that Centrobia is asking any tips if we have someone like MTG as our rep. Okay, here's what I would say, Centrobi. Really hard to get through to someone like that makes a living off of being difficult. It's really hard to do that. Yes, call anyway, because you never know. But what I would say is we always talk about your rep, and that is important. Now, this is where we can use a kind of broken system to our advantage, even if it is just $20. If you have someone you want to get to who is not your congressional rep or your senator, if you donate to their reelection campaign, even $20, call their office and saying, I'm a donor, and this is what I think. Should it matter? No, but guess what? It does. There's a whole separate team that looks into what is happening with donors. There's an entire team. Now, they are not in the congressional office. They're on the campaign staff. And so if you have someone who's a congressional representative that you want to reach that's not your congressional representative, call their campaign. Go to what their reelection site is, which is always up because they're running every 2 years. Usually they just keep them up nonstop. Go to their election site and send the comment there. Because if you say, I'm a donor and I'm upset about this, it's a different team and a different type of hustle that hears that message. Crystal's asking if I can make a post about this. Absolutely, Crystal. Sarah, if you could make a note about talking about reaching, Crystal, I'm assuming you're talking about how to reach them through this kind of backdoor way of donations. Absolutely. If you're talking about something else, please let us know. And Sarah is going to make a note to make sure that we get that. All right, Crystal, I'm getting a thumbs up. So yay. So great. Okay. Really appreciate all of you. I'm going to keep going on content, but I would like to thank our Political Fixer supporters. Those of you that are subscribers, I just did a personal subscriber only video today. Really appreciate all of the love you show us, but also those of you who give gifts and likes and you subscribe to our channels on YouTube and on TikTok and you share this content. It really matters to us. This is a difficult time for all of us, and to know that we're doing something that is reaching you in a positive way means a lot. So I just sincerely want to thank you. And on that note, I want to go into our third story, which is also a positive story. Based on an organization that I have supported for quite some time now that some of you might be familiar with, but I think I'm going to be bringing a little bit of light and positivity to an organization that you may have heard the name 1,000 times, and they are deep into this fight with us. I want to share that story with you. Okay. So we've been talking a lot about how anti-Musk messaging is working. And I didn't come up with that. I'm not the only one that knows that and has access to the data. There's a lot of people looking at research and focus groups and online trends to see what are we doing? How can we reach people? This is one of the biggest concerns of the Democratic Party right now. Vosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. This is one of the biggest concerns of advocacy groups and the Democratic Party. They feel like the message just didn't reach enough people. So when we see something that's working and when we see someone who's trying, we want to reward the behavior that we want to see, right? Okay. 2 advocacy organizations tried to run an ad. And once again, I have a visual for you. Tonight is definitely a night of show and tell on Political Fixer Live. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this where you all can see it. So this is an ad that two organizations, Common Cause and the Southern Poverty Law Center Action Fund, tried to run in the Washington Post. And it says, who's running this country? Donald Trump or Elon Musk? Since day one, Elon has created chaos and confusion and put our livelihoods at risk. He is accountable to no one but himself. The Constitution only allows for one president at a time. Call your senators and tell them it's time to fire Elon Musk. And it says firemusk.org. All right. Now, I say they tried to run it because when they put the ad in the Washington Post, they paid over $100,000. They pulled their resources, Common Cause and the Southern Poverty Law Center Advocacy Fund or Action Fund, and they tried to run this ad in the Washington Post, and the Washington Post refused to run it. They refused to run it. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, okay, I think of advertising and I think of businesses. Are political ads common in newspapers? And the answer is yes. Not only are they common, but when you think about it, during election season, political advertising is one of the biggest moneymakers for print media, right? When it's campaign season, they do a lot of ad buys, right? And so they take even controversial ads. As long as there's no hate speech, they take it. Oh, wait, I'm wrong about that. Sometimes when it is hateful, they still take it. If you're wondering if newspapers run political or controversial ads, I pulled this gem back from the Wayback Machine. It's an ad that some of you might recognize that says, bring back the death penalty. And it's a letter that I'm hoping you guys can see the signature of here. Anybody recognize that signature? That's right. That's the guy that's in the Oval Office right now. And that ad was taken out in the New York Times and a number of other national publications calling for the execution of what was known as the Central Park Five. You might now know them as the Exonerated Five because it turns out they didn't commit the crime. So these newspapers run controversial ads about all kinds of topics all the time. However, they censored this one. Now, I learned something when I was looking into this story for you guys. I have been a supporter of Southern Poverty Law Center for quite some time. I'm a big fan of their work, but I always visualized what their work was as fighting poverty, trying to eradicate poverty. I know they do a lot to stand up for decriminalizing a lot of people and ending mass incarceration. And I was also somewhat familiar with the work that they had done to dismantle hate groups. There's a report that they do every year that talks about dismantling different hate groups and seeing and identifying particularly white supremacy hate groups in the United States. They do that report every year, and organizations like mine wait for that report every year because it's really great data. It's free. You can get it on their website, and it shows you exactly what's happening. And they use a lot of tools to try to make a difference, including filing lawsuits against these hate groups to make sure to try to keep us safe. Most notoriously, they were one of the organizations that helped in the 1960s and 70s dismantle a lot of the power of the KKK. All right, so they have been doing the work for quite some time. What I didn't know is that the Southern Poverty Law Center has another part of its mission, which is to protect voting rights and our democracy. And so it was under this influence, under this pillar of their mission and values, that they worked and they tried to run this "Who is going to stop Elon Musk" ad. All right. So there's good news in all of this. It's disgusting what's happening. I'm seeing a lot of you calling out Jeff Bezos, the new owner of the Washington Post. And yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of negativity that's happening, and they're not the only cowardly publication right now by a long shot. But the good news is that a couple of things. First of all, who would have read that newspaper and seen the ad? You know, a couple of 100,000 people. Who now is going to get this information and see this ad since it got rejected? It's blowing up. It's blowing up on social media. We're talking about it here. A couple of news outlets are starting to cover it. They're getting way more bang for their buck by having the ad turned away than they would have if it ran. Okay? So you can absolutely imagine. I want you to just take a step back for a second. All right? Why does all of this matter? This is a classic David versus Goliath story. Now, even if you're not religious, a lot of people are familiar with David versus Goliath, the little guy standing up to the big guy, right? Think about this. You're talking about an organization that fights on behalf of people in poverty, standing up to a malicious billionaire. You're talking about organizations that came together and scraped together their budgets, standing up against someone that has infinite resources and an infinite platform. He literally bought his own platform just because he got his feelings hurt, right? And you're also talking about an organization that is speaking truth to power when we know what this administration is capable of. We know how they target people who are effective at speaking out against them. This was extremely brave. And even though it didn't run, I still think it matters that they're trying. That with everything going on and all of the risks and all of the nervousness that so many of our elected leaders have, the fact that this nonprofit organization is still trying to do what's right and speak out against all of this, in my opinion, that's extremely courageous. So what can we do about it? Well, I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can really make a difference to them, and it's totally free. It'll take you less than 10 minutes and it'll make you feel amazing. So in a way, it's kind of selfish because you're going to get to feel awesome while doing this. I happen to know a lot about the Southern Poverty Law Center. They know me over there as well. I've tried to be a friend to them through the years, and I'm hoping you all will join me in that advocacy work. So here's 3 things you can do. First of all, they're really trying to organize all of us that care. If you care about their issues, which are eradicating poverty, dismantling hate groups, protecting democracy and voting rights, and ending mass incarceration. If those are issues you care about, then follow their accounts. They're getting started with all of this. This is an organization that's kind of coming into the new technology age with their messaging. You can find them on TikTok at SPL Center 1971. That's SPL for Southern Poverty Law, SPL Center 1971. Or on YouTube, SPL Center. They're also on Facebook and Instagram. They no longer post on X for obvious reasons, but I think they can also be found on LinkedIn, and I checked and they do have a Blue Sky account because some of you are going to ask me that. They do have a Blue Sky account. Okay, that's the first thing that you can do to show your appreciation is give them a bigger platform. Let them know that this mattered to you. Just follow them really quickly. It's free and they really do a good job of trying to give you educational content that is engaging about these issues. The second thing is share this ad with people so that they get exposure. You can find it online really quickly. I'm going to try to post it on my Instagram after the show at Shauna Vercher. So I might be Shauna.Vercher. I really don't know, but you can find it. Anyway, so on my Instagram, but you can find it by Googling. So just do Washington Post, Elon Musk ad, Southern Poverty Law Center, and you can see the ad. Share this story with your audiences. Do a TikTok on it, create a video, do an Instagram post, let people know what happened, tag the Washington Post and call them out for censorship, and then tag the Southern Poverty Law Center and make sure that people know that they were trying to do good so that you can amplify their message. So you can follow them and you can try to amplify their message. And yes, you can tell them I sent you if you would like. Again, they know me very well over there. And here's the third thing. This is hard work. And all of you know that. You're trying to do the work. That's why you're here with us now. Send them a DM or a quick positive comment, or even do a short video and leave it for them and tag them in one of your videos, thanking them for what they're trying to do. I'm a big believer in rewarding the behavior that we want to see. Now, of course, nonprofits always want donations, so I'm never going to say don't give to them. Give to them if you can. But guess what? You can make a huge difference for free in 10 minutes using your phone or your laptop. And I promise you that it matters. As they're in those meetings and they're discussing what they're willing to do, how far they're willing to push things, are they willing to be targeted as an organization in order to speak out against what's wrong and speak up for what's right? They're going to point to these messages as a reason to keep going. So that's an example of one organization that I think is trying to do amazing things. But you know what? Like, let us know other organizations, because there's so many of them out there, and some of you might be working on them already as well. The whole thing is that a rising tide floats all boats. We know that by amplifying others, that helps all of us. And there's so much negative news out there that I am going to latch on really tight to the positive news. There's a lot of people that are letting us down with just being absolutely spineless. There's no other way to describe it. But guess what? There's also people in the most unexpected places sometimes that are really stepping up and making us proud and reminding us why we love this country enough to fight for her. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys, first of all, thank you to Kelly, Chris, all of you that have subscribed and liked and given gifts. I want to give you guys so much shout outs. Sarah, I see that we've got AP History, JWMP, I don't know how to pronounce that. There's no vowels. Help me out here. We've got Chevy. We've got so many people giving great gifts. We've got people that have shared the live with others. Remember, you can find this entire episode of Political Fixer Live within a few hours on our channel on Political Fixer at YouTube. And thank you. I was parched. How did you know, Divine? How did you know? All right. We have hit over 80,000 likes. Not bad for an hour, right, everybody? Here's what I want to ask you. We've talked about shifting our messaging a bit and hitting them where we know it hurts. We've talked about guiding our senators and our congressional leaders because they don't have all the answers, and we're going to need to lead them by example and by not so gently poking and prodding. We've also talked about rewarding the behavior we do want to see by giving acknowledgments to the people that are out there trying to make a difference. I could have spent the entire hour tonight reading off lists of departments that are going through agonizing cuts and layoffs. I could talk about the heartbreaking scenes that we're finding with immigrants that are being just shipped off to foreign lands unknown. There is so much heartbreak that's happening right now, but we've got to cling to each other and try to make a difference where we can. Next week, Tuesday, that's going to be, I can do the maths. Is it the 25th? Somebody check my maths on that. Yeah, the 25th. On the 25th of February at 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do a rundown of my homework. I gave you guys homework this time. You gave me some homework over the last couple of weeks. Now's a chance for you to hold me accountable. So next week's Political Fixer Live, we're going to unveil all of the tools, widgets, gadgets, and resources that we can possibly muster up for you. It will not be everything, but hopefully it'll be a good start. Show you where they are, how to use them. Thank you, Susie B, for the nice gift. And we will also make sure that you are able to download and access everything for free. If you miss that broadcast, don't worry. We will make sure that it is also available on the Political Fixer YouTube channel right after as well. I'm going to ask you a wind-up question. Do you feel just a little bit better, a little bit sassier, a little bit more like you got some of that Kendrick Lamar swagger at the end of this hour than you did at the beginning of it? Was this a good use of time? Did you feel like this made you feel just a tiny bit better? Because if so, that is what gets us out of bed every day. That is what causes me to look at the headlines sometimes like this, but keep going and try to get all of this information for you all. That is why we're here. And so I want to tell you that all of your positive messaging has definitely helped keep us going. We're in this fight with you. Look at this. We're at over 86,000 likes. Thousands of people that are connecting across the country and the world, coming in and out of this conversation on different platforms. You're not alone. We're not alone. We have power. We have quite a voice, and we're going to make sure that we continue to use it. All right? Like, that is what's important. Do not let them take away your hope. Don't let them take away your autonomy. Don't let them take away your joy. And never, never, never let them convince you that you're in this by yourself. You're absolutely not. You're absolutely not. All right. Well, look at this. I love that when I get like riled up, I lean into you guys and you can see Buffy more over my shoulder. I love this. This is a Karen Hallian art piece. You can get it on Etsy. And she takes pop culture figures and figures in history, particularly strong women, and makes really gorgeous art. And Buffy happens to be one of my favorite icons in pop culture of all time. And so I love that when I get riled up, that those of you on TikTok can see Buffy more prominently. All right, so we're going to let Buffy guide us into the sunset, the most dangerous time if you watch a Vampire Slayer. And I'm going to make sure that I see so many of you, hopefully next Tuesday. We've got this, family. We really, really do. On behalf of myself, Shauna Presley Vircher, the Political Fixer, and our Political Fixer team, say hi, everyone, to Eddie and to J Robot and to Sarah, who are helping us. Send positive vibes to my child, who is currently flying back home to college. And send Maddie some positive vibes with everything. I'm a nervous mother here, and there's been a lot happening. Make sure we all stay super positive, stay safe, and I will see you all very, very soon. Thanks, everyone.